All right, what's going on, everybody? We have a very special, productive conversation for you all today. So this is going to be a lot of fun. We're about to answer questions as people have had for their entire lives. And it is going to be an incredible journey as we are on to this special topic known as astrology. So first things first, we have our good friends Ryan and Jose joining us. What's up, Ryan and Jose?
Hey, man,
What's
how's it
up?
going?
Great to have you guys. And today, to help us learn about the world of astrology, as we learn about our zodiac signs and twin flames and element categories and all of that, I'm very excited to introduce to you, making her Productive Conversations debut. We have Erin McGoldrick joining the show for the first time. What's up, Erin?
Not much. How are you?
I'm very good. I know Ryan Jose is good. We're very excited to have you, Erin. And we're
Thank
really
you for having
excited.
me. Never done this before, so
Oh, it's a real pleasure and honor. And like I said, this is our show. This is the Astrology Podcast. And first things first on astrology, if you Google astrology, what is it? As we go into elementary school mode really quick. So astrology from Google is, how you explain astrology. Astrology holds that the sun, the moon, and the planets represent different facets of who you are and express their energies through the signs that occupy your birth chart. That's what the first thing happens for astrology for dummies. Erin, as you're the unofficial expert here, do you think that's accurate? How would you explain astrology?
I think that's actually pretty accurate. I kind of like to view it as all of us at our core being one unified energy, and our charts are essentially a cookie cutter map of our makings. And if you had like your chart, it's viewed like a circle on a lot of like platforms. Like traditionally you would read it in like a circle, and you would kind of put it down onto the energy and make like cookie cutter like pieces out of all of us, and we're kind of like all one through astrology in a way. But essentially they're your charts for how you kind of operate and who you are, and even how your life goes. Different charts can tell you different things. It can tell you compatibility between two people. It can tell you a lot about yourself and kind of figure out how to get most in alignment with your path. And it can tell you a lot of things, and like what you'll end up doing and where you're best suited in life. And it's essentially like a personality test, but like a spiritual one, kind of.
I think that is a perfect explanation. Thank you there. So we know Erin's here as our astrology expert, right? And so to get perspective, let's figure out astrology for our end. For me, I was aware that astrology was definitely a thing. And I have looked at, my zodiac signs and horoscopes before, but I never was really into it until maybe a few weeks ago, until I met, especially when I learned more about numerology, which is for another podcast, from this guy I ran to a bar in Miami. So I want to expand on that more. So Ryan and Jose, what are you guys' initial thoughts on astrology? Start with Ryan on this one.
Yeah, so I don't know. Not quite sold on it. I was gonna ask Erin actually if I can yield my time back. How did you decide, like, when did you get into the astrology? Like,
Wait,
when did
before
you
you
kind of
just
okay,
before
sorry.
you answer that, just
Go ahead.
Jose, what do you think of
Okay, fair
astrology?
enough.
I use it for my dating life. So I totally believe, not this negative Ryan over here.
That wasn't negative. I just stated an opinion. But I do really want to hear like the idea, like how did you find it? Like what kind of got you into it? And into like learning about it and utilizing. I assume you use your like horoscope and your charts when in your dating life, as Jose said, or in other facets. So I'm just kind of curious about that.
The answers kind of found me. For me, there was definitely like an awakening to, everything, and how, like a spiritual saying is everything's intertwined and it's all the same thing. Kind of, and, there was a period where life was like really dark, and I had nowhere else to go. And suddenly the answers just started finding me, and I didn't even have to look for them. It was like I was chosen to be found or something. And I just started looking more and finding more and more meaning into it. And once you know something, you can't unknow it. You can't turn your back on it. You know it. It's there for good in your brain. And it really helped me figure out a lot about myself, how to operate in the world, how to, move and kind of really be one with myself and who myself really is. And it was just a powerful tool for me, and I never unknow it now.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people have speculation and kind of fight over true or false, or even like Christianity, or is there a God or whatever, or is there a deeper purpose in general? But whatever helps get you through the day is kind of my big thing. If astrology helps you, great. If not, who cares? So
Totally. I was gonna say it feels very religious. It feels almost like a religion in the way that folks will turn to a more like, I'll say traditional, for lack of a better word, a traditional like faith, be it, Judaism or whatever. It feels very similar to that in that it provides people with like explanation, and it
yeah,
provides people with kind of just I want a map really,
yeah.
or a but there are people who like really though truthfully like feel in their bones like, I'm going to use, this is not meant to be pejorative, but it's really the only phrase I know aside from my own sign, which I looked up in preparation for this. But like Mercury in retrograde, and so like
Um,
someone will be like, I can't talk to anyone today because Mercury's in retrograde. Which that I don't think religion has an equivalent to that. I mean, I don't, maybe I'm not a religious scholar, so there might be a religion out there where it's like, oh, it's the Sabbath day, don't speak to me. But just that's the part that kind of feels different to me, is like how serious some people really do like take astrology as as like a guiding, like it really imbues powers into them and emotions into them and whatever.
Well, I think there's a spectrum to it, like in anything. Like there are, Westboro Baptist Church extremists, and
Right,
then
yeah.
there are people that go to church because, they want to go to church and live that lifestyle, right? Of like the clean button-up white picket fence. And the same thing with astrology in a way. Like if church helps you, great. And if astrology helps you, great. The thing about organized structures in general, and astrology definitely falls into that. It's a grounding place for people. It's a community, it's a home. Some people like to, wear a white collared shirt and go to work every day. And some people like to, wear turquoise golden moons on their
Right,
neck
yeah.
and, do yoga, right? It's just a lifestyle. It's just a place that makes you feel like home. And that's all we're kind of looking for anyway. And again, like I think there are, kind of spectrums to it. There are the people like me that, eat, sleep, breathe, like yoga and astrology and all that kind of spiritual shit. And then, sorry,
You're
stuff.
good. You're good.
And then, there are people that, they kind of know their sign. They're like, oh, there's actually, I see memes all the time, like, oh, I'm not saying I believe in it, but there's definitely like, I'm a Taurus. I definitely like to eat a lot, like there are things that kind of, people definitely resonate with. Whether or not they're going to make it their entire life, that's another thing. Same thing with Mercury in retrograde, like that's definitely real if you think about what it kind of is saying. Mercury is all about your thought process and your communication. My Mercury is in Aries. Aries is really fast paced. It's to the point. That's why I'm talking so fast right now, because I'm operating out of my Mercury sign. But other people with maybe a Mercury in Taurus, their Taurus is the slowest moving placement. So you might be a really slow thinker if your Mercury is in Taurus. Mercury in retrograde, your entire communications and your thought process. Well, now it's reversed. So any good choice you might make, that's why exes come back, right? Like any choice you might make that would be usually a good one during this period is now completely reversed, and you suddenly think it's a good idea again, and you're suddenly being somebody you were like 3 years ago by
Right.
that. And I need to slow down.
No, you're good.
It's all good, no worries.
Um, but you know what I mean. It yeah, so it's not like, oh, I can't talk to my ex because Mercury's in retrograde. It's, wow, there's this period that's going on right now of a transit, and it's kind of affecting how I think, and maybe it would be best if I kind of cut it off. Or, think about this in 3 weeks when Mercury is direct. But there are some people that will take that to an extreme and not really know what it means either. And then there are, people that learn to work with it. So again, it's just a spectrum. Yeah.
I like that. That's deep. I really think that's a good way to start. And speaking of the signs, Erin, you had a question for us regarding the signs to start off.
What are your guys' sign? And big three, if you know them.
So for me, I know I am a Capricorn, which we're in the season now, the horned goat. And that's it. I just saw I am a Capricorn. We'll start with that.
Okay.
Jose, what about you?
First, I'm a Cancer. I don't know the big three or anything like that.
Okay.
I went to look it up. Unfortunately, it didn't work quickly enough for me. I was gonna try and be cooler than I am. I am, I believe, in Aries, March 27th.
Oh, you're a Pisces, cuz. Okay.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
March
I'm a
27th.
Capricorn, December 31st. Jose, you're July. You're not
July
July
6th.
6th. I was about to say July 5th. That's the day on my bed. That, and then Erin, you said you're a
Yeah,
Taurus.
so I'm a Taurus on May 14th. I am a Capricorn moon and I'm a Sagittarius rising.
Oh, okay.
What does that mean?
Yeah, okay, so 514 even is an interesting number, right? Five, I mean, I know you want to talk about numerology a different day, so I'll keep it really short, but five is all about structure in organization, and then 14 is a number of divine spirituality, and it kind of makes sense that I am somehow finding a way to put structure into like divine spirituality. It almost makes sense that I'm really into astrology in a way, like it feels like very right. But I'm a Taurus, that's my sun sign. Your sun is how you operate. It's your ego, it's how you move throughout the day. It's the things that you're enlightened to naturally. I'm a Taurus. We're incredibly stubborn. We are the most stubborn sign. We're Venus ruled. And we're also an earth sign. So combining Venus and an earth sign, right? Venus is all about like love and indulgence and stuff like that. And then having that in earth, we're really material. Like naturally, I'm really material. A Taurus's favorite thing to do is just lay in bed after a shower with a comfy robe on and watch a movie and be lazy as hell and smoke some weed and just indulge. Like that's my favorite thing to do. I have a Capricorn moon though, so that kind of helps me out. My moon sign is how I feel. It's how I process my emotions, and Capricorn is the goat. Like it's literally known as the goat. Like
Yes.
they're
Like me.
they're the workhards. They're like the people trying to be baller and will actually make it. And so having that in my moon sign, how I operate, how I work through things like emotionally, is that I quite literally work through my feelings. Like when I'm going through it, I'm living at work or, at yoga or doing something where I can really apply myself. Capricorn is it's symbolized by the goat, but also the devil. It's very like addiction friendly. A lot of Capricorns you meet will actually be like drug dealers a lot of the time I found in my like path, or like they're bankers, or like they're the people that are probably going to be like in the 1% one day because they're like ruthless. They're literally ruthless. And they're known for that too, because there are signs too, but they're ruled by the devil. So like Earth is very material, money, but like with that devil influence, it's kind of like you kind of get where I'm going with that.
I do. And, like, this is one of the things I want to help break down, or at least, like, it's not exactly for anybody on the fence or skeptics to make them believers, but really talking about these definitions and how they actually fit into these descriptions, like you said. Like, for instance, I'm a Capricorn, and I just looked up famous Capricorns, and the people Google puts right away have some very prominent, ruthless people. Martin Luther King was a Capricorn.
Yeah.
LeBron, Denzel Washington.
Martin Luther King is ruthless?
I mean, he was. He did. Elvis.
Ruthless is tough. I would say he's determined.
Better word, determined. Like, you look at these people.
Determined might be a better term.
Elvis Presley, Timothy Chalamet, Ryan Seacrest, Jim Carrey.
A little early for the Timothy Chalamet
Yeah,
Elvis Presley
you're going
combo,
really
but I
weak on
get what
it.
you're saying.
All right, here
There's
I
successful
have
people.
the literal goat right here. Muhammad Ali was a Capricorn, and there's
He was
me.
ruthless. That's
Like,
ruthless. He was
look,
ruthless.
these people fit the description that Erin was saying. Betty White as well. Like,
Oh
that's the
yeah,
thing. And then
I
there's
feel
Betty
Betty
White.
White.
Lord Betty White.
yeah,
I don't know.
like
Again, I feel like
that's
ruthless
crazy. Like
stuff.
everything you talk about with these people, not only they're rich, but the fact that they do what they want. They're very determined people, and I just list off some of them, and I'm very lucky to be amongst them. Ryan,
Well,
oh,
So I
sorry,
feel
Erin,
like
you're
you
saying?
could. Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Erin.
The cool thing about it too, and why it may or may not directly resonate at first, is first of all, like your moon placement can completely like drastically change your sun sign, right? Like I just said, I'm a lazy Taurus, but I'm like a hard worker, right? Because of my Capricorn moon. I know some Tauruses that are lazy as hell, but they have a Pisces moon. So all they do is they like live in a dreamland about how lazy they are. Like they just like blame everybody else. Or on top of that, there are also light attributes and shadow attributes. So there are the shadow attributes of a Taurus where I do have that indulgence aspect, but I'm also incredibly responsible and will be a great mom one day. And I'm practical and I'm good at budgeting when I really feel like it. And same thing with Capricorn. There's that like addiction side, but then there's that like hustle side, and I'm gonna be the best because I have to be. Um, so there are kind of like light attributes and shadow attributes of each sign, and which one you'll show up more in is kind of reflective of you and where you're kind of leaning on the spectrum of your feelings and your inner world. Are you a light person or are you a shadow person? And that's kind of where like energy work comes in, and really where the real like astrology comes in of how do I make myself better? How do I work my energy to make it light?
So, would you consider yourself to be like an astrologist? Like you can
No.
do all that? No, you're just a fan
Um,
of it. You kind
I
of you dabble, but there's people who are like they can do all that. They can hear your moon and your
oh
ascending and
well,
your
so
birth and
I do it all the time. Like I'll pull up somebody's chart and I'll sit there and I'll tell you everything about yourself to a point where you're a little freaked out right now. Um, but I wouldn't call myself an astrologer because there's so much more that goes into it. There's like Vedic astrology and transit astrology and different types of things. And I can't even read the circle chart. Like I'll read it differently. I use Astro Cafe. Can I say like official things in here? I use a
Yeah.
site.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can say that.
Um,
Just as
and
long
it's
as you don't play music from it.
Okay,
yeah.
cool. And it'll show up as a chart instead. So it'll kind of separate out all the placements so I don't have to like do so much mental like gymnastics with it. And it'll kind of show me it as a chart. So it'll just say Sun in Taurus and Moon in Capricorn. So I kind of take like I know what Sun means and I know what the Taurus sign is about, so I combine them.
So do
Not
people come to you
everybody
for
does.
advice?
Yeah, a lot of the time, people like just being told about themselves too. Which is usually
Mhm.
where it starts, is somebody just kind of wants to know about themselves in like a, egoic type of way, and then I'll start like kind of going in on it and showing the purpose of it. Um, and that's kind of what gets people hooked. And I've actually made a lot of friends just reading their charts and them, having more questions over time. If that was a question, I don't
Yeah, no,
know.
I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
just curious.
So helping to break those down a little more, with me, the Capricorn, Jose, you're a Cancer, right? So how would you how's that defined and broken up? And I'm sure Erin, you can you can agree with what he's about to say. What's the Cancer signs like, and how does that relate to Jose?
Are you asking me?
Oh, I asked Jose.
Oh, okay, that's what I thought.
The Cancer, what? We're emotional. We're a water sign. We best described as like we have our emotions on our sleeves. We think with our hearts, not with our heads. Uh, type of thing. We're easily fragile. We have our moods. That type of thing.
And you feel that
I guess
describes
it's
you?
kind of at some point, yeah.
What do you think, Erin, of this? Or are you able to get a read right away with Jose?
Yeah, Yeah, you're holding a lot of anxiety. You're a water sign for sure. But Cancers are water
Hmm.
signs. They're deeply psychic. And they're actually very outgoing, for water signs. You guys are like just kind of flowing through life, and getting tossed through it, I feel like a little bit. Cancer men either love or hate their mother. Like there's no in between. Like you either low key like think about your mom or like you might murder her one day. Um, that's kind of like Cancer men thing. Because they're ruled by
Yeah.
the moon. Cancers are ruled by the moon. And the moon is the mother. Um, so you have innate connection to being outside at night. You love water, obviously. Um,
Mhm.
and you have a real flow to you. You read people very well. That's probably why you're into astrology in the first place.
That definitely
But
describes Jose
Mhm.
Cancers
from the
definitely wear their
outside.
hearts on their sleeves. They're definitely especially naive in relationships. You guys are very sensitive. The thing about Cancers though is a lot of Cancers actually become like contractors or like construction. They really like moving around. Because you're water signs. A lot of the times I just like working with their hands and but there's also a lot of money in contracting. So that they're like as much as they're watery, they like to provide. Cancer men especially. And Cancer women are amazing mothers. They're just like they have like a natural instinct. They can grow incredibly well. Like if you started a garden, I bet it would go really well. And Yeah, but you definitely think with your heart. You're Yeah, in a shadow that's kind of where shadow and light comes in. Is like in a shadow attribute, you're incredibly naive, you're clingy, and I'll always say like Cancer is like a leech, like it'll like latch onto you like Cancer, and you're like, oh my God, get
Oh,
off me.
Jesus.
Um, but the light attributes are, yeah, you can provide, you can grow, you really know how to run a home and be a protector, and that's kind of where you naturally fall into yourself is when you're in that true independence, but you are holding a lot of anxiety. I would just like to say that you should try meditating.
You
What do you
have
think,
that
Not
Jose?
really.
from. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Do I have a what?
No, I said, what do you think?
Nah, she pretty much got 90% right.
Hold on, before you keep going, Jose.
Oh,
The
yep.
anxiety bit. You got that from his sign, or you got that from
I
something
can,
else?
I can quite literally feel it every time the camera goes to him.
Gotcha. Okay. I was just curious if that was like a
What the hell?
cancers
I
are
mean, Cancers
usually
are also
anxious,
just, well,
or
yeah, because they're like psychic and they don't really know how to handle it because they're so deep in their feelings. They're like incredible overthinkers, like because they're so deep into their feelings that they like forget that nothing, it doesn't always have to be so emotional. Like not everything has to be water.
Right.
Yeah.
I
that
am
was all I
overthinking about something, but I'm not sure. Yeah,
had.
I'll give you that.
All right. Well, I think it's Ryan's turn now. We could go back to
So hold
being an
on
Aries.
before we
Uh-oh.
start. Before we start,
Okay.
you are under no obligation. You can absolutely do what you just did with Jose, and that'd be very interesting to hear. However, I did a quick search while this was happening
Okay.
because you mentioned the three, right? So I
Right.
was like, what is the three? Finally did come up. And so for
Okay.
the three, you need to know date of birth,
And there's
position of the moon, right? And then time of birth. Is that correct?
You don't need to know the position of the moon because it'll tell you that. But you do need to know, my camera froze, but you know what, it's fine. You do
No,
need
you're
to
good.
know, okay, cool. You just need to know your birth time and your location of birth, and it'll kind of calculate the rest for you, along with your birthday, obviously, but a given. But what's your big three?
Because looks like a Mayan. The Ryan was the one to pause. I'm sure that'll fix in 1 second. Um, okay, so far so good, but Jose, just to latch on, isn't that something so
I
far
mean,
what
the
Aaron was able
whole
to figure
I
out?
don't the whole thing with my mom thing kind of got me because
I mean, I kind of
I
meant
don't
that
have
part
the
of the joke too at the same time. I mean, I meant to
I
make
don't
it,
have the
I don't think you'll kill her
I
one
don't
day.
have the No, I won't kill her, but I do have a love-hate relationship with my mom.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought
It's
that
one or
was
the other. It's never just,
right.
you know, oh, we're cool. It's like, no, I can't stand that bitch. Sorry for them.
Right. So
9 out of
Ryan,
10, I can't stand her.
all right, Ryan will be back in 1 second. So he just froze out. But why don't you do me now as the Capricorn? I know we know each other very well,
Yeah,
but to be fair, on my end, what do you see with me?
yeah, you know, I'll try to read it as you know, unbiased as possible. But you know what? I'll tell you because I also know like your moon sign and everything. Should I tell you from the perspective of just the Capricorn, or should I kind of put in that I know your moon sign too?
Yeah, like exactly what you did with Jose, just the
Okay.
same thing, and however you want to answer that.
So you're a Capricorn is why you gamble. That's a very like Capricorn thing.
Oh
You
boy.
know, it's why you understand business well. You understand how to make money move and kind of you know how to you know how to run a ship, but you're not good at it in an emotional way. Like you get very Capricorn's ruled by Saturn. Saturn's all about like control and restriction. So you get very you become like a guy about it, kind of like you just get very like I know what the plan is. I need to do it my way, and you know I'm gonna be the goat about this. But you know the thing about you know, a leader is you're leading a team and there's no I in team. And that's kind of something that Capricorns do need to learn. Capricorns are very restricted emotionally. They don't like to open up much. And when they do, it takes a long time. You guys are bougie. You're bougie. Like Capricorns are the one like coming in and like Balenciaga, you know, like you guys are the ones like wearing that stuff and you work hard to get it. Like not every Capricorn does. A lot of Capricorns can also be very like addictive. They'll fall very quick into that like dark path very quick. So again, like your moon sign really kind of helps. You have a Sag moon. I know that because you can also just Google it. The moon sign stays in a lot of the placements actually stay where they are for a few days. So if you know your birthday, you could pretty much pull up your full chart. But where it kind of you need the time is for your rising sign. And your rising is like where your first impression in the world, and how you come off to people, which is actually why it's kind of important. But you have a Sag moon, so you kind of have that lighter energy to you. You have a very big heart. So on top of, you know, that like leader and like restriction and you know that like I'm gonna be a boss about everything, you're also good at looking at the big picture. Sagittarius is very big picture. It's also very spiritually tapped in. So despite how egoic Capricorn can be, you also have this balance of like you're like the devil and God raging inside me kind of. Like you're it's not a bad thing. I mean, I'm a Sag rising, so I kind of have the same thing going on. I'm a Capricorn moon with a Sag rising, so I come off very like spiritual and very you know, like open and open-minded and you know, I use a lot of big words naturally. But then I have this like really like restricted, like devilish, like stay away from me,
Mm-hmm.
selfish almost. And you could be selfish too. But you have an incredibly big heart. Which is why you're very, very open to people and very open to hearing other people's perspectives. But when it comes to work and when it comes to the day-to-day life, like you're strong and you're a go-getter and you really only want to listen to yourself, and that's kind of applied to most people. But like you know, you'll do whatever it takes to get there. Um, but you just got to remember that there's no I in team.
Yeah, that's pretty spot on, not gonna lie. And
I'll admit that's pretty close to you, Matt. As someone who's known you since we were 5,
I know, right?
that's pretty close.
This is insane. Well, I appreciate that, and there's definitely a lot I'll get out of that. And I'm excited to learn some more things too. But now with done with the Capricorn tarot, why don't we circle it back to Ryan now as the Aries and what you were saying
Yeah,
before,
let's
Ryan?
let's see if this works. Maybe the signs are not gonna let me ask this, but if I give you all that information, because I believe I have all three,
Yeah.
would you be able to offer it, be like, oh, this is what you are, or
Yeah.
no? Is it a longer process than that? Because if it's long,
No. Do you need my chart? I mean, do you need your chart pulled up?
I don't need a chart. I was just saying, if it's something you can do quickly, then I was
Oh,
going to
I can
give
do
you
it
all the
super
info
quick. Yeah.
and see. We could do it. Since I am the skeptic of the group, I feel like having the
And
most info
that
on me.
actually that works out really well. When's your birthday?
March 27th.
Right, we talked about that.
Yeah.
In 1 year. What year?
1995.
What time?
So this is the one that I'm probably most likely to get wrong. If I remember the story from my parents correctly, it was about 4 o'clock, maybe a
Do
little
you
earlier.
go to the minute?
I'm gonna go with 4:05 to the minute. I might be wrong about this, but we'll go with that, and we'll
Okay.
do the reading from there.
But then it won't be accurate. What time in the morning or night?
Well, I mean, it was the
When
evening,
okay.
PM. Sorry, PM. Yeah,
I'm like, oh, terrible way of okay. And then what town?
town was
Yeah.
Norwalk, same as Matt.
I was actually born in White Plains, but
Oh, I was born in
we're in the
Norwalk.
same hometown though.
Same hometown. Yeah, I was born in my hometown as well.
Yeah.
So
Was it, were you born in Norwalk too?
Ooh.
Yes.
Or I was just wondering. Cool.
Okay. You probably are a Virgo rising. I wouldn't be surprised. You're very earthy. Because you need it to the minute for for the rising to be completely accurate, but
sure.
it changes by the hour or by like every 2 hours. So as long as you have the right hour right and you're
Yeah.
not like on that line, you'll be fine. But you're in Aries with an Aquarius moon and a Virgo rising.
Okay.
You're like me in a way where Aquarius is also ruled by Saturn, and to have that in your moon sign, you're also incredibly restricted emotionally. Um you're hmm. So let me start with Aries. Aries is 0 to 100 real quick. Like you guys have anger issues, you're incredibly impulsive. Something I'm always saying is the curse of an Aries is that they are so good at being in the now that they eventually get to like their older years and they're like, oh shit, I did no preparation for being old at all because I told myself my whole life that I'll get there eventually and I'll figure it out later. And later comes and you didn't figure it out because you were too busy having so much fun. And that is an amazing thing. I wish I could do that. I wish I could just drop everything and go be, like a party animal like all the time, but no, I'm too like responsible. I wish that I could just have that spontaneous they're called the child of the zodiac, the Aries. I wish I could just be in my inner child all the time and be so spontaneous and carefree. That's an amazing trait. And Aries are the people that bring people together. They're known as the leaders at the same time. They're the first in the zodiac. They're the child of the zodiac. You guys are incredibly determined. You're very powerful if you learn how to channel it. The issue with a lot of Aries is that they don't have the right placements to help them channel it. Um, you have an Aquarius moon, however, so you have an air sign moon. The issue with air sign moons is there's like a vindictive, like manipulative, like cunning energy to it. Because air is all about communication. So you speak to people very naturally. Like it's very easy for you to communicate. You're like a natural extrovert despite your Virgo rising. But you have a way of putting things into boxes that can really mess your life up, I feel like. Or you have a way of viewing you have a way of viewing the end of things to a point where it's like you're so busy living in the now, but then at the same time, anything that might actually be good for you, you immediately self-sabotage because you'll think of all the ways that it could go wrong or where it'll eventually end. So you back out of it. But the issue with that is, what if that person, what if that romantic interest, what if that job opportunity, maybe it's not your end goal, but what if there was a lesson there that unless you didn't learn it, like if you don't learn it, you literally won't unblock the next path for you. Like you won't unblock the avenue that you need to be on. Maybe this is a stepping stone to where you need to be, but because you overthought it so much, because you jumped to conclusions, because you saw the end on it so much, you backed out of it, and now you're stagnant because you didn't just want to, be open-minded about it. It's like you could be carefree in the moment. You can be carefree with your friends or, your family or whoever, but when it comes to those major, decisions or actual avenues that could actually bring you further on your path, you're like, oh shit, no, that might end really bad. And I just overthought all the ways that this is going to end terribly for me. So I'm going to dip out and never actually go forward now. You are incredible at getting in the way of yourself, more so than probably most. Is that right?
Well, let me ask, Jose and Matt. We've done a lot of episodes together. What do you think? I mean, Matt, obviously, I've known Matt even longer than the episodes, but I'm just curious what you guys think.
Go ahead, Matt.
Well, in terms of like, for somebody who also overthinks, I think, you do have what a great perspective on things, but sometimes I feel like that energy can almost be like so much, and it's like having almost too much knowledge can be skeptic sometimes, but it's a good thing though. So I think Erin's onto something there, especially with the, just letting things in the moment just stay. And this is, when I'm not asking for you advice on something, I think that's interesting perspective.
What do you think, Jose?
To be honest, I can see a little bit. I mean, I don't know you enough. Like we do the show together.
You're right.
Outside,
Yeah.
I haven't really seen you outside of work. But I mean, little things she said that kind of comes off. But
yeah, there's definitely
say,
little stuff that makes sense, like when hearing it. I mean, I would probably have to, not now, like do a more, like talk to someone more in depth about it, to see, like, because some of it totally makes sense, where you're coming from, even things that I don't typically let out loud. Like there's some things that are very obvious, like again, Jose would probably see that it's very easy for me to talk to people, etc. Also, just have to know my job to know that that's true as well. My job and my training, but there are definitely things that are not as open that I thought were kind of close, if not exactly right. But there's also stuff that I thought was kind of not close. But I don't know if, again, part of that could be because I just told you 405, because I'm fairly certain that's right, but it could be totally wrong. But I do also wonder, I mean, so to get into more of my thing, since at some point Matt's going to ask me, I'm definitely 100% a nurture truther, I guess, for lack of a better term. I don't necessarily, I believe that the people and the environment around you shape you in a way that nothing else can, not religion, not even biology. And so for me, I think that, I'm a product of my household, I'm a product of my parents, I'm a product of my education, etc. And so I do wonder if that means I've made conscious decisions in my life to go against type, as it were. I mean, that would, if I had to guess what the explanation would be, if for the things I thought weren't quite right, other than, again, just error on my part in explaining myself, it would be conscious efforts to do things differently than perhaps I would be most comfortable doing them. So I don't know. I would be interested at some point to talk to, again, still don't know that I believe it all, but be interested to talk to someone and get like an in-depth dive. And like, because you said you could, you can tell like what people do, other things.
Well, because there's interesting things about this too, right? Like your Mercury's in Pisces, or your Mars is in Leo. You're like a really good fuckboy. No, but like
I think that's a little knowing Ryan, and if
I
you're
was gonna
turns
say,
out like
so
the typical Brad and
historically,
Chad,
yeah, historically not. There was a couple. Actually,
Historically.
Okay. That's
all the
really
romance stuff was the stuff that was, I think, probably the most off
Actually,
from the reading.
hmm. Hmm. It's really interesting. Because Mars, Mars is how you act. Your Mars is aggression. Leo is very comfortable in it. So Mars is actually ruled by Aries and Scorpio. It's complete aggression. It's actually sexual energy is really what it is. And Leo is it's literally the ego. It's ruled by the sun. Um like Leos are incredibly egoic, which is why I said that I was kind of placing the two together. But I can see where you're getting with that with your Venus being an Aquarius. So people you're probably drawn to are like free-spirited types of people, deep thinkers, people that make you tick. Um, People that you can really have like a in-depth conversation with. But I think almost is it possible that you have like a profile in your head of what your perfect person would be like? I feel like I was actually saying this to Matt the other day, like similarly like a profile in your head of the type of person you want, but you're so busy focused on the type of person you want that you kind of, miss the path in front of you, or you miss other opportunities that could be good because you had like a
So I'm married.
sounds like
so
me.
obviously, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that my wife would be my perfect
Oh, okay.
person if I had to describe her. I mean, yeah, I also don't think I missed, given that I am married.
Mhm.
Obviously, I guess
No,
time will
okay,
tell,
that
but I
changes
think
things. Okay. Because that'll change
yes,
how I perceive it.
yeah. So I am married, which is why
And this
again,
kind of would be a good transition as we
yeah. Let's
talk
hear it. Yeah.
about
Right.
the big question here. And one of the things, as Jose literally referred to in others, is that astrology really is a way for people to see who that their romantic partner is. And the question I have for this is, do you think astrology can predict a life partner / romance? And so, having said that, this is a good transition with Ryan. And in terms of this, may I, Ryan, say, your wife is a Sagittarius, right?
Yeah, I won't give you the moon sign or any of that for my wife. We'll just stick it with Sagittarius. But yeah,
Okay. So Ryan, you're an Aries.
yes, I mean that's what I read.
So I looked up the zodiac compatibility, and according to this chart, you as an Aries and her as a Sagittarius, you have a 93% compatibility rate. And well, that kind of accurately predicts this. And according to this chart, you're harmonious. You have a great sexual chemistry, and it says here low commitment. So according to this chart, it seems like your particular relationship kind of checks the marks. I mean, you know better than me, but the 93% compatibility
So I don't know
is
what
exciting to find out there.
don't know what
Yeah.
low commitment means. I would be curious to hear from perhaps Erin or Jose, because I know Jose, the dating side is where he kind of falls really into the astrology, right? If I'm not, when we talked about this previously.
Mhm.
So for
If
the
you're
whole
not,
room,
if you're not my dating sign or come close, I'm swiping left.
interesting.
I don't care
Okay,
how
so
cute you are.
you take it that serious that the sign is a sign, right?
Yeah. If I see an Aries or a Sagittarius or Aquarius, swipe
Well, you
left.
just described all of me, I think. But
Yeah, pretty much.
so
I was swipe left on you,
swipe
Ryan.
left
I'm
on me.
sorry.
Oh, well, that's all right. I am taken, so I will put my I'll put my Tinder away, and I won't swipe for you, Jose. But
All
so
right.
yeah, I guess the question would be, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what low commitment means. The other stuff, I guess, makes sense. I mean, well, we're married, so obviously, I'd like to think we're a good match, right? Um, but and then the other bits of that I think would probably, again, we got married, so I think that everything else is
Especially the
probably functioning
harmonious
okay,
part is
right?
probably the best
But I'm
for
curious
that.
what low commitment would mean, because I'm not actually even saying it's wrong, by the way. I'm just curious before I say it's, because my whole thing with this is I could sit here for sure and say actually that's 100% right, because my wife's job requires a lot of travel away from our household. My job does not. I'm home a lot. My wife is gone, and that's just a totally normal thing that we go through. We're not worried about one another when we do travel. We have very independent lives. I could totally see how that would be low commitment. And now that I've said it, it's what we're going to call low commitment. I do get that. But my whole thing with all of this is the more I say, my thought about all of this in general, with the numerology as well as the astrology, is the more I say, the more I convince everyone, myself included, oh, perfect match, right? So that's why I'm curious. That's why I always ask you guys first, not because I want to be like a jerk. I promise it's not to be a jerk. It's because I can easily take everything and be like, that's totally wrong because of this one thing or that one thing, or that's 100% right because oftentimes I'm this way or this way. Like you can always talk yourself into it. So that's kind of why I was curious what you guys all think. Before I talked, obviously, in that
and we appreciate that.
I gave away the game when you said low commitment. My thought was, well, in fairness, it doesn't take a lot. Like me and my wife are typically pretty independent of one another when we need to be. So I gave that one away. That was a freebie on my part. But hey, that's why I was asking that. Just as a clarification for anyone listening, like, oh my God, why does he keep asking other people? That's why I'm just curious. I'm just trying to hear.
That makes you why you're very good at this, honestly. And Erin, what do you have to say?
Well, what was the question?
No. The way would you consider that with it seems like those three attributes to their compatibility kind of were spot on, especially the low commitment part.
Yeah, well, it's funny that you said your wife travels for work because Sagittarius is like I always call it like the Coachella sign. Like they're the people you'll find like doing the hippy dippy stuff, like going to Coachella and festivals and always trying to travel. Like they're the people most likely to van life it. So it's just funny that you said that. But yeah, I think there's definitely compatibility in signs. Again, I think the rest of your chart can kind of throw off where that'll go. They're, classic kind of combinations like Taurus and Capricorn usually make really good friends actually. They're like the OG best friends of the zodiac. Yeah, I can see how Aries and Sag would be very compatible at the same time because you guys are very independent. You might have a lot of really hot-headed kind of like you'll definitely like bump heads a lot because you're both so firm in your perspective, I feel like. But the independence helps you out. But yeah, I mean, Taurus and Scorpio, they attract like crazy. Pisces and Virgo, depending on the signs, go well together. Gemini and Capricorn go well together. There's definitely like compatibility. Aries and Aquarius are usually a good match. Cancer and Taurus are actually usually like a really good match. And there's reasons why for that too. Like Tauruses, we're very sensitive, we're very shy, and Cancers are very watery. Personally, I can't stand water signs on an emotional level. Like I'm literally like, oh my God. But like no offense to any water signs, but definitely there are like those like classic combinations. And then again, like because I have a restricted, like I have that restrictive moon sign of a Capricorn moon, I don't like feelings. I like I'd rather screw it out. Like I don't want to get all like emotional and touchy. I'm like I want to yell at you. But yeah, I mean they're definitely more compatible signs there, and we could even go into synastry and composite charts, which are how you would actually kind of get a read on whether you're compatible or not. So synastry will tell you about the kind of energy between you. So it'll tell you about like if you'll be really aggressive with each other, if the sex will be good, if you'll intellectually stimulate each other, if you both even care about that. And then composite will actually tell you like exactly where you guys will fall, I guess. Like first to the seventh house could indicate marriage, or a grand trine could indicate like really harmonious energy between you two. Or no, actually no, it'll indicate, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know the trines and stuff like that. I shouldn't have gone into it. But it'll either indicate a really rambunctious relationship or really harmonious one. I don't remember. I'd have to fact check. But yeah, that's kind of yeah, there's definitely a compatibility aspect to astrology. Long answer short.
So how would you describe, using astrology terms, your perfect date? So not necessarily long-term partner. I'm saying like you're going to go on a date, like Jose said, right? That if it's not the right sign when he's on the apps, he
Mm,
moves on. Right.
yeah.
That's why me and Jose will never get on that lovely date that I have planned. So if you're on the apps, if you could like write in your bio the sign, like using the astrology terms of description, what would you describe as your perfect date? Like the person, obviously, not the actual activity.
Um, I wouldn't go so far as to place them into like I want like a Taurus sun or anything like that, but in terms of placements, I do actually just want to see in general in like a major way. Probably Sagittarius. But I would also need Earth surrounding it. Maybe Taurus, but I'm also a Taurus, and I like being right too much to ever let another Taurus be right. I mean, but you were asking in terms of like a first date.
Yeah.
Definitely a Sagittarius placement, somebody I could talk to. That's kind of where I'm thinking. I'm an incredibly deep thinker. Or maybe an air sign placement, but not a Libra or a Gemini, so only Aquarius. But even then I find that I'm very picky. I'm incredibly picky. Um, Probably a Capricorn placement in there. I need somebody that can match my restriction on dates. Yeah, because I'm very like contained, and I also have a very like dry and dark humor, and it can go the wrong way if you're not hearing it
Yeah.
right. Um, yeah, so probably a Capricorn and Sag placement in there, and then some Venus energy too. Because yeah, I'm ruled by Venus. I naturally am uh I'm very Venus based naturally. So I would need somebody that can get that back, I feel like.
So flip it. What would be the worst first date using astrology?
Um Pisces, right off the bat, or any water sign. I mean Scorpio I could deal with, but I wouldn't trust the words you said. So it's kind of like what a waste. Worth. Yeah, definitely Pisces. A Gemini moon, because I don't trust them. And then trying to think. A Scorpio rising male, because they're like really ugly. Like Scorpio rising men are like the ugliest men I've ever seen.
Oh my
Scorpio
geez.
is death. Okay, so here's the issue, right? Scorpio rising women are beautiful because
Right.
they have a feminine energy to them, which kind of makes them alluring. So you're taking death and then putting that like feminine energy and combining it. So there's that allure to it. Like there's that like,
What?
oh my God, are you gonna kill me kind of vibe to his Scorpio rising. But I kind of dig it, They've usually got like really big eyes and like long dark hair. Men love Scorpio rising girls. But Scorpio rising men are ugly, like because
You
they're
know who's a Scorpio man? Bill
Scorpio
Gates.
rising men. What?
Scorpio rising. This is
Yeah,
specific.
because your rising is how you like come off in the world. It very much judges like your appearance, or it discerns your appearance. So
I will
having
say,
rising as a masculine energy, it's like no.
can I say some of the famous Scorpios for the women? Julia Roberts,
Anne
Emma
Hathaway.
Stone, Anne Hathaway, Winona
Yeah.
Ryder,
Yeah.
Gabrielle Union, Kendall and Kris Jenner, Sierra.
Mhm.
How about
But
that?
yeah, and if you think about
Also
this, a lot of
Hillary
them have
Clinton
that
though.
like long dark hair with those big eyes. That's very Scorpio energy. Scorpio, think of like spiders.
Right,
You kind
yeah.
of think of that, right? Like
Like
you,
a
they're
Black Widow, you're saying, like
Yeah,
yeah,
Can
kind
the
of.
we
beauty and the
Yeah, and like death.
Yeah.
to put
Yeah.
these in perspective though, with Jose, who's interested in the dating aspect of the
Mhm.
astrology, can we help figure it out for Jose?
Oh yeah, let's build Jose's.
If he's interested, of course.
Yeah, let's build mines up.
Let's build Jose's dating
I'm sure Jose
astrology
has a
profile.
idea in his head, but if Erin can help that too, and you could use
I'm
me as well.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take real notes too.
Okay,
I'm gonna
you're a
start pending
Cancer.
tonight.
You're a Cancer, so
Yep.
here's the cool thing, right? You're opposite of Capricorn, but at the same time, the things about the signs that are opposite of each other are they have similar qualities. So the cool thing about Cancer men is they're actually great gamblers too, if you lean into
Yeah.
that. So you should do something where you can like bet on something because especially because you're very intuitive, like do something where you can let your intuition
Uh-oh.
Yep.
We didn't lose you.
Oh,
So we have Erin pause at the
Forever
second.
alone. Forever
this
alone,
is the
Jose.
sign.
This is the
This is the
sign.
sign that
I'm
says I
sorry.
have to
You
get
shouldn't
it
have been
up.
so mean to me. I would have had a great first date with you. But now
Yes.
you got nothing.
According to this,
I-
I'm assuming we'll wait for
Oh,
Erin to
we're
come
back. We're
back.
back.
Okay,
I'm
Erin's
back.
back. All right,
Where
you're
did you
back.
go?
There we go.
All right, so you were talking about gambling and
Oh
stuff
yeah.
like
I
that.
do like to
So you should
gamble.
definitely
I
you should
do.
definitely like show that off though. Like show off your intuition, make that like your party trick. You would do well with a Pisces. I actually like widely recommend a Pisces for Cancer men. Because you guys are like kind of weird deep down, but like Cancer
Well,
men like play very normal. Like, I know a lot of Cancer men. I'm actually thinking of my cousin right now because he's the same way. Like he plays very normal, but he's actually like really weird. And Pisces chicks are really weird. They're like really taboo. They're like those like witchy girls that like save cat bones. And like that'll make you feel like understood and expressed without actually having to become it. The amazing thing about feminine energy is it can kind of show masculine energy what it could be because masculine energy is too restricted to ever be what they truly feel like inside. So which is why, feminine energy is so important because that's your expression right there. So look for a girl that feels like you, but the parts of yourself that you hide away because you hide away, you're a
right.
Cancer. So that's why a Pisces would probably be good for you, and they're also even more watery than a Cancer will ever be, which is like whoa. So you'll feel strong around her. You won't feel like weak. And this isn't to violate. I just know Cancer energy so well. You'll
Right.
you'll feel strong in yourself. You'll feel like that protective instinct will actually come out because there's somebody more watery and more psychic than you are. Definitely a Pisces.
Oh man, so all them Pisces about to be swiped right.
Do you think
Bumble.
that there is some correlation to that though? Like because lately I've also looked up who I'm compatible and not compatible with, being the other single person on dating apps. And I see specifically Aquarius lately, I've been swiping left. And I was talking to one I matched with. I was like, man, this person's lame. It's probably because they're Aquarius and I'm a Capricorn. See ya.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably because you're both Saturn ruled, Capricorn and Aquarius are Saturn ruled. So when you're together, it's very like restricted. Like you wouldn't do well because it would kind of honestly fall flat. You might do better because you have a fire moon, you have like a Jupiter moon, you have a Sag moon. So you have like an energy to bring to the table, but you would probably be carrying the weight the whole time in a way.
It's
Um,
not fun.
no, not fun. What would be good for you? Um, I could see you with an Aries. You would do well with an Aries, kind of, but no, because Aries also need to rule things and you need to rule things. So that wouldn't work out. You definitely need somebody that can let you be a man, and Aries aren't good at that. because they need to like be daddy. Uh,
Hmm.
trying to think. You would actually do well with a Gemini. Because yeah, you would do well with a Gemini. Gemini is ultimately the sign of devil and God raging inside me, but like in one compiled sign. Gemini is very like bipolar, for lack of a better term. It's like I describe Libra energy as like a scale kind of, but Gemini energy is like the scale like on crack. Like it's like moving up and down. It's like hot and cold and no in between. Um but you would probably do well with that because it would excite you and make you passionate and inspired. But you would also do well with a Cancer. But she would need to have a fire sign to match your fire. But you also need earth in your life, because you need routine. You need like as a Capricorn, you definitely need like that routine and a level of structure to you, and you need somebody that can fit into that with you too. Definitely not somebody that'll just wake up whenever they feel like it, or like at 10 o'clock in the night and be like, oh, let's go out. We have work tomorrow, but it's fine. You can't do that. Like you need to go to bed.
I feel that. And like, especially being introduced and then thinking about like my past, the strongest relationships and the stronger reckon like some people I don't remember their birthdays, and the few I do, yeah, these kind of really do hit. And it's an interesting time. And I think that the thing is like it's not necessarily like the next, for instance, here it says I'm a 98% with a Taurus. Like not the very next Taurus I'm gonna meet is marriage. There's still the whole aspect of meeting somebody and building a relationship from there. But at least something from this can at least give you a hope, and you might, for lack of a better word, excite you for whomever you can grow something with. I think that's one thing to make clear. This isn't all guaranteed. It's the perspective and the compatibility. I'm sure everybody can agree here.
Agreed.
Yeah, obviously.
And going to our next thing. Now, this is something that I do think is a good topic here to talk about, compatibility, because with this, Erin, you and I have talked about this all off the air, me and Ryan specifically, but understanding the twin flame concept.
Mm.
So, what is a twin flame? Some are asking, right? Now, if I go through the Google definition, what is considered a twin flame? People ask. So, this term online is twin flame is a term used to describe one's counterpart, a person who have similar personality traits, desires, and beliefs. Essentially, a twin flame connecting is a strong, mutually beneficial relationship in which two people complement each other and help one another grow. So that is the initial definition. Erin, do you mind explaining your definition of twin flames, and hopefully that can branch out into more of a conversation, because I've heard both the positives and negatives from this. So help us understand what twin flames are and see if we agree.
To be fair, this should belong in a whole nother episode because there is so much in this. There's a Netflix documentary called oh, I can't put that in there, can I? But
Yes, you can.
there's
Yes, you can.
oh, okay, I don't even know the name of it anyway. But it's something called
Escaping Twin Flames.
Yeah, that one. Thank you.
You're right. What a coincidence. We talked about this. And can we talk about just quickly the sides here, that I brought this up 2 weeks ago, the twin flame concept. And then, of course, with no offense, Ryan, you said yourself, maybe a little bit on the skeptic side. And you and I were talking last week, and like, man, isn't it crazy? He said that he learned about the twin flame concept a week before I brought this up.
Correct.
So we were meant to talk about the twin flames, but I understand it is a deeper topic. But let's see if we can condense it to, a short amount of time. But can you go again, Erin? Again,
Yeah.
you talked about the Netflix doc, but what is twin flames for people to understand? Because it definitely, I've seen a lot. I've done more research. A lot of people are interested in this.
Because I think everybody wants to believe in love and that there's somebody out there that was perfectly curated for them and that there is a higher purpose. And, that's why people flock to astrology and religion in the first place, is to believe in something greater than themselves. And I have my own personal twin flame experiences that I would definitely save for another time. But they're real. I've seen them. And a twin flame is the I guess the folklore behind it is that they're incredibly rare, and it's that there were souls that were split into two. They were chosen to be saved, and they were put into separate bodies, and were meant to find each other over time, and they're essentially a mirror of yourself. And that's kind of getting into energy work and yin and yang, the divine feminine and the divine masculine aspect of life in general. And something I've learned in being a twin flame is the best thing to figure out how something works is by taking it apart and putting it back together. And humans are just a microcosm for the rest of the world. All the effects you see in the world, every outcome was created by a mass of humans, by all of us putting our little puzzle piece in the world and kind of creating a domino effect of energy. And life just naturally occurs over time because we're all these little microcosms playing a role in it. And that's essentially what the twin flame journey is about. And what finding your real twin flame is understanding yourself by taking yourself apart and putting it back together. And so essentially, twin flames are healers that are meant to, master life and understand what it's about in this microcosmic form. And they travel through lifetimes to find each other so that way they can heal themselves and you heal and be healed.
So almost another way of explaining your soulmate, the person for you.
Essentially, but it's really a healing journey. And soulmates and twin flames are two different things because I have tons of soul family out there that I've met, and they're not my twin flames. They're not these people that, rip your heart out and have made you see crazy things that that there's a God after seeing that. And and then there's soul family that are just they're easy. They're people that you naturally get along with and understand. And the thing is most people don't meet their soulmate, and that's kind of where astrology comes into play. Is in order to meet your soul family, in order to meet the people that are naturally you, you have to be aligned with the most authentic you. And you have to use your chart to find that. You're looking into the most authentic version of you and having to step closer into it each day. And so most people don't marry their soulmate because they're not carrying enough energy. They're not vibrating on a high enough frequency to attract such a high
Damn,
level.
that sucks.
No, but I mean, we're all personally responsible for that, right? We're all vessels of energy, and it's our responsibility of how we move that energy. Are we going to operate in our light side, or are we going to operate in our shadow side? And that's essentially what twin flames are showing you. It shows you the yin and yang, the shadow and the light.
That would make sense, especially romantically, if you two are a
Yeah.
perfect match, like the
Yeah,
quote
you
unquote
the
ultimate
opposite.
perfect match. Yeah, and here's the thing that we're trying to figure out: like, one, will you meet your essentially in this life? You are meant, from what you're saying, you are meant to meet that person, or
No.
you're not. You're not.
You know, and that's the thing is there's no, twin flames are in alignment with the universe, and there's no black and white in the universe. There's no clear answer on it. Really, it's a personal journey of self-understanding and self-actualization, and you're looking at this deep, intense resonance of a mirror in front of you of this person that shares your soul, apparently. And they show you everything about yourself, even the things you hate. And the question the universe is throwing back to you is, that's you. What are you going to do about that? How does that make you feel? Are you going to change that? Are you going to keep being the crap person that you are right now? Or are you going to do something about it? And are you all these things that you hate about your twin flame right now, about this mirror of you, are you going to fix that? Or are you just going to keep being a victim forever to your own circumstances? And you're essentially offered red pill, blue pill. What are you going to do about it? And most people won't ever be offered that extreme choice. Most people won't ever be offered that fork in the road because they're just not carrying that much energy. And that's not a bad thing. We need the followers so that way there's not a higher bar set for average. You know what I mean?
So
We need the followers.
question for you then, based on it sounds like a twin flame doesn't even need to be a romantic partner.
It doesn't always, it's not always, most of the
Yeah.
time it is, because you need to kind of see yourself from it. Because here's the thing, right? Like most people are looking for love. And so, how do you sell a product? By making it marketable, by making the packaging cute, right? By attracting that egoic, superficial thing. Most people are looking for their other half for whatever they just package that as. You're packaging your other half. So you kind of need to be drawn in by that. I have never talked so much in a 2-hour period. Most people need to be drawn in. That's kind of the donut that the universe is dangling in front of your face is, oh, you want love? You want this intense emotional understanding that you never thought you would ever experience, and you want to the things I have felt, the things I have actually felt. It's not, I've felt it like a drug to this day where I can still remember a person that I don't even know anymore. And that things I felt with 2 years ago, I can still remember them and hear them and feel them ring back to me. Most people can't say that about just one person. Most people break up with somebody and they move on and kind of forget that person existed. How do you wake up every single day and think about them and dream about them and go insane wishing they would get out of your head? Because you're just so haunted by how much you used to love them and the things you felt. How do you process that? Not everybody's meant to, but what was the question? Because I forgot what it was.
Well, no, so the
I
question was
think
just
you hit like a lot of. I
yeah.
think you hit a lot
Yeah.
of
Okay.
real things
Yeah.
on that thing. We don't
Yeah,
need a
that's why I
question on
said
that.
it
We
needs
should
to be
branch
another
off there.
episode, because it moves your soul. And the thing about it is, sure, it's a quest for love, and that's kind of the thing enticing you to it. But you'll also kind of realize where you hold yourself back and what are you going to do about that. And that's essentially what it's asking. And we
I have a
heal.
response to that, but I'll let Ryan go first.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, the question that I asked specifically was, does it have to be a romantic partner? And the answer is no. You
No.
can learn about yourself from another type of interaction with another person closely tied to
No.
you, which you answered. And that
This is
makes sense.
true in
And
general.
I do find it interesting the way you describe it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I definitely, and Matt will probably speak on this in a second. When we talked about this the first time, I don't know if we ever talk about it on camera, Matt, or did we wait until
Not on
after?
camera.
Yeah, so after it was brought up off camera in our little meetings, I think Matt was looking into the concept of like finding the one, like finding the next, finding the one, right? Twin flame, find the one.
Yes.
And I do think like in the escaping the twin flames and in some of the stuff that I knew about it when Matt talked about it, that's kind of how that's sometimes pitched to people. You're pitching it differently. You're pitching it as again self-discovery. You meet this person, and this person might end up I mean, the way you described it sounds horrible. This person might ruin your
Thing is,
thoughts
it
for a
does, it
while.
rips your soul out and it
Yeah.
shows you who you truly are. And but that's the thing, right? Is we all have an ego and we all have a soul. We all have, the light attributes and we all have the shadow attributes. And what I was saying before about how we're vessels for our energy, that's kind of where like past life regression and stuff like that comes in, and just like being an old soul. The more energy you accumulate over time throughout the lessons that you learn on Earth, the more energy you build, the higher you're able to raise your frequency, the more you're able to come into your like soul, like 5D energy alignment and really attract, right? Because if you're at the highest, most authentic version of yourself, what would you attract? The other highest, most authentic people that match you. So if you're on really egoic vibes, you attract your flock, right? Like, or your vibe attracts your tribe. Like,
Mhm.
that's what it's saying. If you're like a really egoic person, like people usually say in relationships, it takes two to tango. You're not the only toxic one. Same thing. Like if you're on a low vibe, maybe it's not material. Maybe you're not a cheater. Maybe you're a liar. But either way, you're both on really low vibes. So that's why you're attracting each other. And that's why it's usually hard for people to kind of look in the mirror in the first place and say like, oh yeah, that's messed up what you did to me, because you probably did something back, but because you're both on these kind of low egoic vibes, you're not even able to say, oh yeah, I did that. And so you raise your vibe by kind of clearing energy blocks. But the reason I have the perspective I do is because I went through it. I didn't look at it from the outside. The answers found me again. Like I experienced these things first, and I was so whiplash by them that I had no choice. But the thing is, as much as there have been days that I hate that I ever became a twin flame or that I ever learned what that word was, I would never give it back, because it forced me to believe in something greater than myself. It gave me hope. It gave me something to work for. When I met my twin flame again, when I found all the answers, I was in just the rock bottomest of places, and I was able
To move
to.
forward, is it okay to ask, do you feel you've met your twin flame already?
Yeah, I have. Well, and that's why I'm saying I am one. Because I've been through it. I've seen my face on somebody else. I've heard my voice on somebody else. I've heard somebody say exactly my words. I've told you about this personally. I've sat across the room from somebody and watched the energy raise and felt it. And like, what do you make of that? I felt some crazy spiritual things from meeting somebody. And what do you even make of that? Like, how once you know something, you can't unknow it. Once you see the truth, you can't go back. And I'll never, as much as it ripped my soul out and broke me to pieces, and I'll always wish we could reconcile things and figure it out. I've I've also learned the art of detachment in that way, and how to be happy without love, and I've learned things that I would never take back. But it ripped my soul out to do it. But it can be beautiful, and if you eventually do reach the end goal of twin flame union, of being with your person, then that's an incredible thing. But most people don't ever reach it, and it's because you have to rip your soul out and put yourself back together to truly get to that point, because that's what twin flame union is. You're putting yourself back together and making yourself whole. Most people aren't whole. Most people are miserable. Honestly.
That's true. That's undeniable.
Yeah.
As sad as that may sound, that is undeniable. Most people are miserable.
And that's where we go for, this subject, just to help learn. And that's one things that is great about astrology. It just gives people something to really believe and think about.
And that's the thing is, yeah, I agree with that. And that's amazing. It's amazing.
And especially the energy part, explaining energy, and whether it's not literal, like if you're watching an anime and you're getting energy, if you've seen Dragon Ball Z and you see them literally getting energy that way. Exactly. But no, I think the energy to me is that effort. It's that moving forward. It's consciously making sure you have a better attitude. And especially I think we can all agree, these last few years living in the United States, it's been very emotional for a lot of people. And I think we all have our personal lives and journeys. It's been tough to live in this world right now. And amongst that, we're battling with our feelings all the time and our mental health, especially lately. So, Erin, I think you really explained that beautifully about putting that energy out there, and it's not easy, especially in this world. And I think as we talk about I think we don't want to be lonely. I think it's fair. We don't mind our me time sometimes, but it's just lonely. We don't want to be lonely. I'm sure we've all been there. And what I think we get out of this conversation, if anything, beyond all the signs, the moons and the suns and the earth, it's okay to talk about this stuff, because it's okay to talk about anything, because there's people who feel the way you do. You're just trying to find some guidance. And I think what's valuable in this conversation is getting that guidance out of people, right? And it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. And I think to put this on a boat with the energy, it's just about putting that effort, and it's truly believing that you're putting this energy to something that's worth it, and it hits really hard,
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't give us a chance to think there, man. You just said all that and then nothing. No.
I mean, to be fair, I've been doing that too.
You know, when you go on these tangents, sometimes you just hear the TikTok background music. But I think there's so much allowed to think about coming from this show, you know?
I have one more question, if that's okay. If Erin, if you're up for it.
Yeah.
So obviously, hopefully, a lot of people are gonna watch the episode and all of this, right? If someone, I mean, I've obviously been kind of extra curious, perhaps annoyingly so. But if someone like me, if you met someone like me who said, I don't know about all that astrology bit, what would you tell them in terms of, again, not trying to change anyone's minds, not trying to say you should believe this or shouldn't, because I don't think you would do that, and I don't think anyone should do that about anything, any belief system or lack thereof. But if someone was curious but skeptical, what would you tell them to think about? Like, what would you tell them to look at and think about, just to try and open their brain to this idea that perhaps there is something in the stars that describes who you are, how you are, etc.
Um, you know, my approach would be different per person.
Mhm.
You know, it's actually really funny because I just trained somebody for work recently. And as you can tell, I'm a rambler, and end up having really deep conversations pretty regularly.
Mhm.
And the person I was training, was he was an Aquarius. He's an incredible skeptic. And but I could tell that he was a believer that we're living in a video game simulation or a matrix.
Okay.
And so we branched off into that, and I was like, do you believe that we're living in a video game or a simulation? And he's like, yeah. I was like, okay, so if you believe that, view astrology like it's your video game avatar, and you're trying to pass levels right now, and the energies that you go through are just checkpoints. And they're essentially levels that you need to pass to level up yourself and reach your highest alignment of energy to be one with the matrix. And he kind of sat there and thought about it like, huh, I can see that. And then I sat there reading his chart, and he's like, oh no, I can really, maybe you're onto something. And like that's usually where I kind of go with that is I'll think of like how it'll relate to that person in particular. Because I know like with girls, a lot of the times I'll just immediately start like, "Ooh, what's your sign?" and like make it
Mhm.
super like ditzy, like
Right.
my approach changes per person, but essentially I would go into your chart and kind of tell you things about yourself and see if it adds up, and usually that's just enough to get the boxes kind of ticking.
Hmm.
The brain, the gears, I don't.
So
Yeah.
essentially, you'd say, don't knock it till you try it. Get your chart.
Essentially, like hear me
Hear the
out.
info.
You know,
Okay.
but release of control too. People will find the answers if they want them. They'll heal if they want to, and you know, I'll just offer the information and see where that leads me.
And that hits. That really hits. Do we have any other final questions, Jose? You want anything
No,
here?
I'm good. I realize my Pisces is what I'm looking for, so I'm good.
Jose got the data he needed.
Yes.
Well, I think this was a great way to end this show. And beyond anything, it's up to you if you want to believe it or not. So you take that information if you do and actually truly believe it deep down in your heart, in your soul, in your head. It might help you out. I think we all agree with that. Well, appreciate the time. Erin, you did an incredible job. You really did, especially
Thank
for a
you.
first
Yes,
time.
thank you.
Sorry
Thank
for
you.
my
Thank you.
rambles. I
Trust
That was
me,
great.
I've done this a lot. You were not rambling. I've seen
Yeah.
ramblers because you said stuff that actually matters. Like that's the difference between a rambler and someone who's just monologuing, as I say it. Because you actually there was something worth saying. I think there was.
Thank you.
So we all appreciate that here. Jose and Ryan, appreciate you guys as always, and hopefully we all do this again very soon. And we're looking forward to seeing what's out there. See what
Absolutely.
let's see what we can make of what this pod. Let's see what we can make the most out of what we learned from this pod. So, Erin McGoldrick, Jose Rivera, Ryan Page. We'll see y'all very soon.
See you, Matt.
Bye.